Okay, so we're going to have an extension or continuation of what we did yesterday. And for this case, we are still under implementation or implementing database auditing. So implementing database auditing. And we say that when we talk about auditing, it's all about monitoring the activities that are happening within the database. And these activities are based on the SQL statements. For example, the update, the delete, the insert. Those are some of the keywords which are necessary to be audited or which are important, especially to the database administrator or the system administrator, because those are the statements that make changes to the database. So if you're to compare, let's say, select, update, delete, and insert, then you can see that the last three, these are very crucial to the system database administrator. The reason being, you see, these three actually makes changes to the database. So someone can update, let's say, for example, employees table on the salary column. You see, someone can end up there and update probably the salary column. And of course, you may be prompted to check what happened. So for you to know now, to understand, you need to do some audit based on this SQL statement. Again, you need to perform some audit on the delete because someone might end up deleting a specific row. So you need again to do some audit. And then of course on the insert, this means that you need again to check probably something has been added to the database object, which is actually the table, and you need to do that. Now, we don't have any issue with the select statement, but at any point you can also probably know or try to find out who did what based on the select statement. But the most important aspects to be taken into account is actually the update and delete and insert. Now, this now about the implementation of the database auditing or database auditing. Remember, we had types of implementing or types of implementation as far as auditing is concerned. And number one, we had something called the standard database auditing. Number two, we had something called the value-based auditing. And then the last one, we are going to talk about it today, is about the fine-grained auditing. Now, out of these three, I've actually arranged them or give them, order of complexity. If you start from the standard database auditing, which of course is not that, of course, as it forms the baseline, it's not as complex as the value-based auditing. The value-based auditing, again, is not as complex as the fine-grained auditing. So it means that the higher we go, the complex it becomes. But you see, the complexity comes when you're using the value-based auditing and the fine-grained auditing. Because for the value-based auditing, you need to talk about triggers, or you need to involve triggers. On the fine-grained auditing, we need to create a policy. So how can we create a policy? Now, both of them will end up having, having some results, especially if you are to recheck or to check what actually happens, because we have a performance or dynamic performance table. This means that it's actually a SysDBA or a system-related table where we are able to check the results. And of course, this tells us more about the audit that is happening. So we are not going to talk about the standard database auditing, but I want us to look at what we never did yesterday, and then probably I can still rerun the same the value-based auditing, and of course the standard database auditing if time allows. So for this case, we may not even cover, we may not have a lot, but I just want us to have a continuation of what we had yesterday on the fine-grained type of auditing. So in this particular session, when we talk about the auditing here, when we talk about the fine-grained auditing, what do we mean? You see, fine-grained auditing involves creation of policies, because you have to talk about, if you still remember the PLSQL blocks, the anonymous blocks, we had like mandatory sections of the block. We also have probably the optional sections of the block. For example, if we are talking about, let me see. Okay, so when we talk about, let's say, for example, the declare, because we had declare, we had begin, we have exception, and of course we have end. So if you remember the mandatory sections of the anonymous block, it was based on, it was actually based on the begin and the end. So in this scenario, I'm going to take you through to show you how we can come up with the fine-grained type of auditing, having in mind what we did yesterday on the value-based auditing. But this one, it's all about creating what? Policies. Now, the reason why we also have the three types of database auditing is, you see, for you to have the knowledge of how each one works, and then of course, how you can implement. Now, the implementation part now will depend on you. Which one are you most comfortable with, or which one is probably most recommended, especially if you are working in a production environment. So you may end up using the fine-grained auditing, or the value-based auditing, or the standard database auditing. So the good thing here is for us to understand how each one is actually created. So just to know the fine-grained auditing, this one is connected or linked to creating a script. So let me clear the screen so that we can do it. Of course, you must ensure you are connected as super user. And here, the first step number one is to create the policy. Create the policy. And after we create, or after creating the policy here, you will understand, if you read in between the policy, the lines in the policy, you will get to relate, or you will tend to relate whatever thing is happening within the policy and what we've been doing probably on the value-based type of auditing and the standard database auditing. So number one, create policy. So let's create policy. So I will start with the word begin. And the second part we are going to have is to use something called the DBMS. So if you come DBMS underscore FGA. Now, if you remember, we had something similar to this. And I think on the side of, it was actually one of the output generators in PLSQL, where we had the DBMS underscore output.put underscore line. We had the name DBMS. Of course, DBMS stands for Database Management System. And then, of course, FGA stands for Fine-Grained Auditing. Then say dot, and then add underscore policy. So these are the policies we need to now to add. These are the policies we need to add. Now, what is one of the policies now? So one of the policies is we need to specify two things here. We need to specify like the object schema. Of course, these are the things we are starting with. So I'm going to say object underscore schema. Then we have these symbols. You must put an equal sign and then put a greater sign. And then say, we are tracking what? We are tracking HR. The object schema in question is what? Is HR schema. We also have the object name. What is the object name? The object name here, let's assume that we are tracking what? We are tracking employees. Now, there was a table yesterday we did, I think, OM. Let's have OM. Is it OM in HR? Yeah. Yeah, let me have home, but in this case, let me just have employees, comma. Of course, you must enclose. Now, this is a must. That is a must. By putting a single quote, equal sign with a greater sign, it's a must. Now, what is the policy name? What is the policy name? So here you need to provide the policy underscore name. Now, what is the name of our policy here? So the name of our policy here, we can give audit underscore, let's say employees underscore HR. Probably that is what is going to be our policy. But in this case, because we want to specify what we are doing, probably I can just, instead of HR, let me adjust it to salary. Let's say we want to audit employees' salary. So I am making this to be like a one name. And then almost to the end, we need to provide what is the audit condition, and of course, what is the audit column. What is the audit condition, first of all? So we can have audit condition. So this is the audit condition. So probably we are looking for employees who are under this department. Let's say department 90. That is the audit condition. Audit condition. Now, we also have another audit. What is the audit column? So the policy has a lot of information. What is the audit column? So the audit column is salary. Remember, salary is a column in employees table. And then we will come to something called enable. So we need to enable. So we should put it to what? To true. Enable to what? To true, because we need to enable this what? This policy. Now, the probably something else I'll talk about that is what else do we need on that part? Yes, very important. We need statement underscore types. So what statements are we tracking? So here I'm going to talk about update. And then, of course, remember we have the three. We have the update. We have the update, the delete, and the insert, and of course, even the select. So if you are interested even with the select, we can still bring it. So let me separate. I can say select. And then, of course, we can also talk about delete. But you know, when you talk about delete, I can also have insert. I want to track all of this. Now, of course, if we had our table like home, the home table, it could be very easy for us to delete and very easily for us to insert. Now, for employees, we have a lot of columns, but let's just do all of this. So this means now that for the statements types, these are what we are tracking, or this is what we are auditing, or the audit is based on. The audits are based on this. And then, of course, as PLSQL, you must end. So let me turn to explain this. We start with begin. This is, remember, it's about creating the policy. So creating a policy and enabling a policy are totally two different things. So after creating the policy, you will do what? You will enable the policy so that you can apply the policy. So begin, and then dbms underscore FGA dot add underscore policy. We are adding a policy. This policy will look into this particular schema called HR. It will look at the object name, which is employees. Of course, you can change this to any other table you want. The policy name, of course, it's called the audit employee salary. Even when we want to delete, if we have to get rid of this particular policy, we need to talk about that name. And then we have the audit condition. So what is the condition we are looking for, or we want to audit? all the employees' salary in department 90. What is the audit column we are interested at? Salary. And of course, just to know, this is not the only column in employees table. You can still even track other columns. For example, the hire date, the commission, and of course, other types of columns. We have enable. So with enable, this means that after creating the policy, we should have the right to enable. So this means we should put it to true. And the unique thing about this, we are not enclosing it. This is not going to be enclosed. So you just leave it the way it is. And of course, the most important thing, the auditing will not happen if we are not going to specify the statement types. What are the statements we are interested at? We have all these. Then of course you enter. So if everything is okay, then the policy is going to be created. So let me press enter and see. Now, so this is about correcting some few errors. And these errors, yeah, I've seen the error. So let's adjust it. So don't worry. Let me adjust. So I was supposed to have enclose it. So don't worry about this. Let me enclose it so that you can have it fully. Okay, so you just see it. Okay. So this is where it is. Let me press enter and press that. Yeah. So now you can see that the policy has been created by PLSQL procedure successfully completed. Now the error was at this point. Because I have this opening bracket, then I forgot to put this closing bracket. That's why I end up getting that error. So for now, our policy has been created. For now, our policy has been created. Our policy has been created. Now, second part is for us to enable. You see, the policy, yes, has been created, but it's not enabled. But we have this feature called true. It's enabled to true. So how can we enable this, policy? So we need to enable by having begin. So I will just still talk about, so I'm going to pick the same things, but this time around, I'm going to change. Instead of adding, I'm going to type what? Enable. I'm going to enable. And remember, you can add, just look at this, you can add a policy, you can enable a policy, you can disable a policy, and then you can do what? You can drop policy. So here it means that I want to enable the policy. Press enter. So I am going to take this. So up to this point, these are what I'm interested at. These are what I'm interested at. For me to enable, for me to drop, for me to disable, you see. So I'm going to look for this. So first of all, I'm interested at object schema, object name, and then of course the policy underscore name. Now this time round, don't forget to put the bracket just the way I did. So we must have the bracket and then press enter and then put that and do that. So these are the steps. So the first step is for you to create a policy. This is how to create a policy. Remember, it is fine-grained type of auditing. So you create a policy, which of course the policy has a name. And so for us to enable the same policy, we must include the three items: the object schema, the object name, and the policy name. So these are very, very important. So once you have that, then you are done. You are done now with what? With creating the policy. So here it means that your policy has been created, your policy is active. It is now high time for us to find out the triggering events, so that I can take you through how we are able to view what? To view now the audit. So it means that if anybody is there now to use the, user HR, because here we are talking about the object schema HR. Now with the three, or with all these, they are being audited. So how can we look at this? So we have this table, which is called DBA underscore FGA underscore audit underscore trail. This is a system data dictionary table, which can help us trace or capture all the audits that are happening. So DBA underscore FGA underscore audit underscore trail. It's a table. If I press enter, you can see that we have a lot of columns. We have a lot of columns. So of course, we will end up choosing part of these columns. We're going to end up choosing some of these columns so that we can track, so that we can trace any auditing or any triggering event. So what happens now? I want us to connect to HR so that we can see whether this type of audit is going to capture any information or any activity happening. So remember, we are interested at what? We are interested at table employees. We are interested at table employees because that is the object schema. So in this case, what I'm going to do, first of all, I want to select, let's say, first underscore name. Let's say last name and salary from employees where department ID equals to 90. Now look at that. So in this case, it means that I have managed to use select. And of course, I'm selecting those three columns from employees where department is equals to 90. So it means that all these people are coming from a department whose department ID equals to 90. If you go back to our policy, you will find that select is here. So select is captured. So it means that the policy has already captured that. Now, going down here, we need to have an update. So let me update, let's say Lex. I want to update, let's say, this salary to 20,000. So I'm going to have update employees set salary equals to 20,000 where first underscore name equals to Lex. One row updated. Then of course I will commit. So what I'm using here, don't look at what changes I'm making, but just see the usage of update. So I will go back here and press that. You can see that the changes have occurred. So don't rely on, or don't look at probably the changes. Look at the keywords or the select statements I'm using. Now on the delete and the insert, I think we will just reserve that. I don't know whether we are able to delete. Let me try. Delete from employees where first name equals to Lex. I don't know whether it will be deleted. Yeah, it will not delete because this one is a table which of course has some relationship. So it's like we are violating the constraint. But if it were a standalone table, or let's say the OM table we created yesterday, it could have actually gone through. But because we have this table connected to other tables, then we are not able to do that. So probably let's work on the select and the update. Let's see the effects or the impacts of the two that we've actually used. So for me now to see, the changes, I need to connect or to be at this account, sysdba. I need to operate as sysdba. And the same table we are using is exactly what we are looking at. So I want to find this, probably capture some few columns in that table so that we can see the results. So here it means that if I bring, let's say, describe that, I want to set some, so first of all, I want us to have the timestamp, because timestamp is going to show us the time when that statement was executed. I want us to take the object name. Of course, this one is going to tell us whether it's employees table. And then of course the SQL underscore text. This one is going to give us the exact statement. So let's take the 3 and see what happens. So I'm going to have select, let's say object underscore name, select object underscore name. And from there, I'm going to have the timestamp. Then I'm going to have the SQL underscore text from DBA underscore FGA underscore audit underscore trail. So I hope that is okay. Now, so what happens is if I press enter, look at that. Look at all this. So you can see now that although it's not well arranged, but you can see from the start, that we're looking at the object name, the timestamp, and the SQL text. Now the object name here is what? Employees. The timestamp, when was it? It was 23rd June 22. And then the SQL text done is update employees set salary. Of course, this one is different. I think this one is captured differently. Yeah, I think we have to start from this point. Yeah. So this is, yeah, for our case, we are starting from this point. Yeah, because I think we have other information there. So we are talking about the object name, the timestamp, and the SQL text. So at first, I did some selection. And then secondly, you see select on this employees table, on that again, and then we have the update. I came back again and did another part here. So the same way, let me see whether I can arrange this comfortably. Let's say column, object name, format, let's say A30. Let me have timestamp. Then let me have SQL underscore text. Let's say A50. Then put that. I think it's almost okay, almost something. So you can see the object name, the timestamp, and the SQL text. So this is the object name. This is the timestamp, and this is the SQL text that happened. So you can see now that based on the fine-grained type of auditing, we are able to track any movement or any activity that is being done by any normal user. But from the normal user's point of view, they will not be able to determine or to know whether they are being audited or not. It is actually under the domain of a system database administrator to now work on what? To now work on the audits. So this should not even be something that should be exposed to them. This should be your secret weapon, because it is you who is trying to understand what is happening. And this is now what we refer to as the fine-grained type of auditing. So that marks the end of this type of auditing. So we have this. So you start from creating the policy, and then of course you end up at enabling the policy. So you enable the policy. So that is it. So any question up to that point? Any question, Robert, Brian? Yeah, so so on that note, I think that marks the end of the database types of auditing. And I'm sure you people got list of this